Dear Regional Chief Hare, I'm writing to you today reiterating my previous calls for us to genuinely open the lines of respectful and constructive communication between the Métis Nation of Ontario and the Chiefs of Ontario, and address some misinformation and misunderstandings straining relationships between the MNO and First Nations in Ontario. I understand some First Nations leadership have concerns related to Métis harvesting, the MNO's Citizenship Registry, and Crown consultations with Métis communities. I offer the following information and welcome the opportunity to meet with you to discuss these important matters in person. Métis in Ontario do not have blanket harvesting rights. September 19th marked the 20th anniversary of the MNO's Supreme Court victory in Hare v. Paoli, which affirmed the existence of the Sault Ste. Marie Métis community and its rights protected by Section 35 of the Constitution Act 1982. In Paoli, the Supreme Court told Canadian governments to negotiate with the Métis, just as it told them to negotiate with First Nations following Hare v. Sparrow. Each First Nation can negotiate recognition directly with the Crown rather than having to go to court to secure this recognition. Since Paoli, Métis have been treated the same way. As a result, the MNO and Ontario established an interim Métis harvesting agreement meant to facilitate further research related to the MNO harvester card system. The agreement recognized the MNO's harvesting policy, rooted in Métis law and traditions that value conservation, safety, and sustainable harvesting, which had been in place since 1995. MNO's harvesting agreement does not allow Métis to harvest all over Ontario. Just as First Nations can harvest only within their traditional territory, Métis harvesters are limited to harvesting only within the region of their historic Métis community. MNO and Ontario First Nations once had ongoing communication about harvesting in Ontario. It's our hope to reignite this respectful, collaborative work with First Nations, focused on exercising our respective Section 35 rights and responsibilities. MNO only represents Métis people who come from historic Métis communities. We have also heard concerns about MNO's citizenship requirements. Let me be clear. The MNO does not represent a patchwork of identities or people who simply have mixed Indigenous and non-Indigenous ancestry. The MNO exclusively represents Métis descendants of the 7 historic Métis communities within Ontario and descendants of historic Métis communities in Western Canada who now live in Ontario. That is, Métis citizens who come from Métis communities which, per the test in Paoli, have existing constitutional rights under Section 35. Consultations with Métis communities are not meant to impede or delay First Nation land claims or settlements. We have also heard concerns about the Crown's duty to consult with Métis communities. As with First Nations, the Crown has a duty to consult with Métis people if Crown actions could have a negative impact on Métis rights. I want you to know that while the MNO works to protect Métis rights and interests for Métis communities in Ontario, this work is not intended to impede First Nations' outstanding claims. If our Crown consultations have delayed or negatively impacted a First Nations project or negotiation with the Crown about land claims, this was never our intention. We are committed to conversations between our leadership to reconcile these relationships. On the very rare occasions that our communities need to raise concerns through these processes, it is never with the intent to stop First Nations from achieving important, long-awaited justice. Our preference always is to work directly with First Nations to find positive and respectful solutions that work for First Nations and Métis. As you know, Bill C-53 is the federal legislation which implements the self-government agreements signed by the MNO, as well as the Métis Nation of Alberta and the Métis Nation Saskatchewan. Parliament has passed more than 24 similar Indigenous self-government implementation bills. Every modern-day treaty and self-government agreement signed by an Indigenous nation with Canada has this type of accompanying legislation. Neither these self-government agreements nor Bill C-53 deals with harvesting or land-related rights, settles any Métis land-related rights or claims, or provides compensation or damages for past actions or wrongs. Rather, They deal with our internal Métis self-government matters of citizenship, how we select our leaders, how we govern ourselves, and how we take care of our Métis children. As such, Bill C-53 does not impact the rights of First Nations. Our joint press release with the Government of Canada was very clear. If additional areas of jurisdiction or matters that may affect other Indigenous groups are negotiated in the future, appropriate Crown consultations will be undertaken. Moving forward together, revitalizing our history, alliances, and our relationships. I know this letter has not covered everything, but I hope that it has provided some additional important context. There was a time when we worked in close collaboration and with mutual respect, recognition, and support for our respective rights, interests, and aspirations. For example, in 2004, the MNO and the Chiefs of Ontario signed a protocol agreement, which is attached, to, quote, affirm mutual respect, recognition, and support for the respective rights, interests, and aspirations of First Nations and the Métis Nation within Ontario, end quote. Going forward, it is my hope that we can reestablish these respectful relationships. We continue to extend a hand of friendship and willingness to meet with Ontario First Nations at the local, regional, and provincial levels. I am hopeful that we can begin a dialogue advancing reconciliation among and between our own nations. We would very much appreciate the opportunity to meet with you and any other Ontario First Nation leaders who want to begin a respectful dialogue and rebuild our relationships. To arrange a time and location to begin these conversations, please contact Matt Robertson, MNO Intergovernmental Relations Lead. Marci, miigwech. Thank you.